Every gamer holds the first game that they ever played in a special place in their heart. For me, that game was LEGO Star Wars 2, and while that's a great game and one that I have immense nostalgia for, that wasn't the game that really got me hooked on video games. For me, that game was Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. Those games were the ones that truly turned me into a gamer. I think it's only appropriate to start at the very beginning to show you why these games are so important to me. I think that my childhood was fairly typical for a kid born in the mid-2000s. My life revolved around Star Wars, the Disney Channel, Sonic, Super Mario, and of course, Pokemon. As a kid, I would watch the Pokemon anime almost every single day without even knowing that it was based on a video game franchise. I did see my older cousin play Pokemon games on occasion, so I did have an idea that Pokemon existed in video game form, but I was not yet involved in it whatsoever. I was born in 2004, so I was born into a strange time for Pokemon. I was too young to have experienced Pokemon Diamond and Pearl when they first came out because I didn't know how to read, but by the time Platinum and HeartGold and SoulSilver came out, I was at a decent age to actually experience them. The first time I ever laid eyes on HeartGold and SoulSilver was on the Disney Channel. For some reason, the Sprouse twins were a big part of the marketing for the game, so my little mind was blown. It was a crossover of two big facets of my life, Disney and Pokemon. That was when I knew I had to have these games. I purchased the game soon after at a local GameStop location that's now been closed for over a decade. I ended up choosing HeartGold version because I thought it was better because it was gold rather than silver. I was a really dumb kid. To be honest, I actually think Lugia is way cooler than Ho-Oh. If only I knew that then. According to my in-game trainer card, I started my adventure on June 13th, 2010, 3 days after my sister was born. The only caveat with that is that my adventure in fact did not begin on that day. I had started my adventure a few weeks prior to that. Several times in fact. While I did somewhat know how to read, I wasn't particularly good at video games and chose to skip all of the dialogue. I didn't know what I was doing or how to save my progress. I spent my first few weeks running circles around New Barktown without a single Pokemon to my name. As I mentioned earlier, my older cousin was my Pokemon mentor, and he had shown me how to hit the ground running and start my adventure for real, as well as actually save the progress of what I was doing. My first ever Pokemon was Cyndaquil, who is still one of my favorite starters to this day. I actually still have this same Pokemon in my Pokemon Home account. Only difference is now he's a fully evolved Typhlosion. Once I got over those initial hiccups, my journey truly began. I was practically attached to Pokemon HeartGold at the hip. Wherever I went, my DS came with me. I would play day and night, and I eventually reached the Pokemon League, became the champion, and thought that was it. Somehow I was unspoiled that there was an entire second half of the game. My mind was absolutely blown, and the fun continued. These games hold a special place in my heart because I was able to grow closer with the people around me because of them. Most of my friends also had these games as their first Pokemon experiences at the same time that I did. Many of you who are familiar with my channel and the We Are Bad channel know of my friend Peter. When he got the game, I remember that he had to go on this weird website and put his parents' credit card information in, and then a few weeks later the game showed up on his doorstep. You did hear me right, the first time I ever heard of someone ordering something on the internet was for Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. Another great memory of these games that also involves my friend Peter was when he couldn't find Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave, so he called my landline to ask for help. I can't help but to laugh at some of these memories because they're so stereotypical of the late 2000s and early 2010s. Kids who are growing up now in the 2020s aren't able to have moments like these because our culture has become so ingrained with the internet. Instead of phoning a friend for help, most kids' first instincts would be to just look up a solution on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, HeartGold and SoulSilver was also one of the reasons that I got hooked on YouTube. By the time I had actually gotten the games, I had already become acquainted with YouTube, but all it was to me was a place to watch LEGO stop-motion videos. Once I got hooked on the Pokemon games, I would spend hours just watching other people play the game and share different tips and tricks. I also was duped by my fair share of fake Pokemon videos. I doubt many of these videos were actually trying to trick people, but I was fooled since I was a pretty dumb kid. These games were the first time I was ever introduced to video game videos, which changed my life. I probably wouldn't be here today talking to you if it weren't for these remakes. I think that's enough blabbing about my great memories of these games. It's about time that I actually get into why these games were so special. I think it's a common opinion that HeartGold and SoulSilver are the ultimate Pokemon games. Even during the times where I didn't have any Pokemon games under my belt to compare them to, I just knew that I was experiencing something insanely epic. You could just really tell that Game Freak put the effort in to make these the best games they could. These games are so expansive in so many ways, and that doesn't even include the fact that it has 2 full regions to explore. One thing I think that these games did brilliantly was expanding on what the originals had to offer. Something super prominent in the game is the sheer amount of legendaries you're able to get. I'll run down the list so that you can just get the idea of what I'm talking about. Not including the Johto legendaries that were already in the game, you can also get Mewtwo, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, Latios, Latias, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. I think we've become desensitized to how lazy Game Freak has gotten with the post-game legendaries in the years following these games. Nowadays, legendaries are distributed online with no fanfare or just sit in the game waiting to be caught with no extra attention to detail. Let me go through an example for you to showcase how much care was put into aspects of HeartGold and SoulSilver that Game Freak wouldn't even give a second thought today. Once you obtain the National Dex, you're able to visit Mr. Pokemon and receive either the red orb or the blue orb depending on which version of the game you have. Then you could take these orbs to a mini dungeon called the Embedded Tower and catch yourself either a Groudon or a Kyogre depending on the orb you have. Then once you've obtained both legendaries through trading, you can move on to the next step in the quest. This is great because it entices the player to trade with others, which is an integral mechanic to Pokemon. Once you have both Kyogre and Groudon in your hand, you can get the Jade Orb from Professor Oak, and return to the mini-dungeon to catch Rayquaza. This quest is so much more interesting than unlocking these Pokemon through a boring mystery gift event. It actually felt like you were getting these Pokemon by interacting with the game world itself. There's also several quality of life features that I think make the experience of these games so seamless and fun. While not really a quality of life feature, I think that having Pokemon follow you during gameplay is incredibly cool. It's especially cool seeing your Pokemon actually use the HM you select if they're the one that's following you. I'm surprised that it took Game Freak so long to bring back this feature because it's so awesome and so beloved by the community. Another nice quality of life feature is that you can toggle the running shoes and have them on at all times. This feature only appears in this game for whatever reason. It's just a nice thing to be able to sprint without holding down an extra button. It's baffling that it wasn't brought forward to future entries. Another thing that I admire about these games is how they don't ignore the games that came out after Gold and Silver, but instead embrace them. An issue that I have with remakes like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, as well as Fire Red and Leaf Green, is that they try too hard to be faithful to the originals. As I mentioned earlier, you can get numerous legendaries from both Generation 3 and Generation 4, which vastly improves the amount of content in these games. The amount of Pokemon you're able to acquire is also significantly increased now that many Gen 3 and Gen 4 Pokemon are available in the post-game. If I wanted to play the original games with no changes, I would've. Having more things to do in a remake that's supposed to be better is a good thing. There's so much content in these games that it really feels like you're getting your money's worth. It's really hard to get bored when there's things such as the Pokeathlon events and the Battle Frontier here to keep you occupied for hundreds of hours. I could talk about HeartGold and SoulSilver for hours, but I know that I'm not the only one who has such fond memories of this game. It helped to shape an entire generation of Pokemon fans just as much as it helped to shape me. I wanted to take this time to open up the floor to a few special guests so that they can share their awesome memories and thoughts on these incredibly special games. I have 3 special guests to speak about their experiences with the game, and links to their channels will all be in the description box below. My 3 guests are GhostlyLynx, Gazam, and JWeeb. GhostlyLynx is a gaming YouTuber who specializes in challenge runs of games like Pokemon. Gazam is one of my friends who has a YouTube channel where he does comedic DIY style videos. Finally, JWeeb is another one of my friends who you can check out in our group Let's Play channel, We Are Bad. Without further ado, let's hear why they have such fond memories of HeartGold and SoulSilver.
If you were to ask me what my favorite Pokemon game is, I would say it's a tie between Ultra Moon, the first Pokemon game I actually beat, and Crystal. Now, I know what you're probably saying, but Gen 2 has bad level scaling, and yeah, I really can't defend it there, but hey, I still love it. For one, Crystal, in my opinion, has the best pixel art in the whole series. Somehow it has this style of looking brand new, yet the game is over 20 years old at this point. Furthermore, this game allows me to get two of my favorite Pokemon early on, being Bellsprout and Ghastly. So when I found out about HeartGold and SoulSilver, I was elated to play one of my favorite regions again with a new coat of paint, new Pokemon, and new mechanics. All in an updated version of one of my favorite Pokemon games, and I might as well say, for a 14-year-old game, it still looks great by today's standards. What I'm trying to say is that Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver, as well as the rest of the Pokemon games set in Johto, are some of the best Pokemon experiences I have ever had. And if you haven't had the pleasure of playing any of them, I urge you to try them out. Also, Bellsprout has his own tower in this game, so I'd like to ask all the Oddish fans where its tower is. So I think we all know deep down which one's the best out of the two.
Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver are some of the best games in the series. You can feel all the love that went into these games. I mean, the reason why people say things like DS Pokemon is best Pokemon is because of these games. I mean, there's so many cool landmarks to explore, like the lighthouse, the brass tower, the Lake of Rage, the national park, with its beautiful music. Now, I don't want to be here all day, so I'll stop listing, but you get the idea. I mean, outside of exploring, there's just so much stuff to do. The bug catching competition was cool. The game corner is where my gambling addiction, or dedication rather, started. The arrangeable safari zone was so much fun to mess around in, and I actually liked catching all the roaming legendaries. And don't forget the things that are in like every Pokemon game, like the battle frontier and shiny hunting. They're here too, and since the art style is so pretty, especially during the evening, these games are some of the best to do this stuff in. And don't forget the best part, how your Pokemon can follow you around. I mean, this was such a cool feature. It makes your Pokemon feel real, and it makes you feel closer to your Pokemon. Plus, I know it feels good as hell as a Pokemon to finally get some fresh air after being in that damn ball all day. And you can even go back to Kanto after you beat everything in Johto. I mean, it's like having two games in one. Look, if you've never played them, this may seem like some crazy glazing. I mean, I'm practically doing oiled up backflips on it, but I guarantee that they deserve this. They're actually really special, and this is not nostalgia speaking. I literally voted before I played these games for the first time. They're actually really good.
Okay, so this is obviously a game that I have a lot of experience with. I think I got it when I was around 7 or so. So I had one playthrough, Chikorita as my starter, obviously, but because goateds. But I'm pretty sure I got to the hour cap in that, 999 hours in that, and then like an idiot, I deleted it. And then I started a new one, and I'm pretty sure I got to 700 hours in that, but I definitely have over 2,000 hours because it kept going past that hour cap. I didn't reach in and delete my save file. No, I kept going for hundreds of hours after that. I played this game so much. I remember I would get so excited whenever I did the bug catching event. I would spend hours just doing the Pokeathlon, just trying to get the top scores in that. I remember getting to the battle frontier, doing one of the things, like getting to level 50 and getting killed immediately, and then doing it again, getting destroyed at level 50 over and over. I don't think I ever even beat that one. But also just, I loved the apricorns. I loved finding new ones, going to Kurt, trying to see what I would get, because I would not use Google at this time. Everything in this game was a surprise for me. I think I somehow managed to find like Groudon completely by myself. I don't know how I managed that, but there's so many good things about this game. I think Silver is one of the best antagonists, just seeing him grow. And the fact that his Crobat needed friendship to evolve, so by the end of it, he actually developed a good relationship with his Pokemon and grew as a character. And obviously the peak of just getting to Red with his level 90 Pikachu and just realizing that I'm still not done with this game. I'm level 70, I beat the Elite Four. I am not done with this game. I have to keep grinding up to beat this last obstacle. Yeah, there's just so many things I love about this game.
I've shared many memories of these games, shown a few reasons why they're so great, and had others give their opinions on them. But how did they actually change my life? These games have played a large role in who I am as a gamer and as a person for as long as I can remember. Growing up is never an easy thing to do, but as silly as it sounds, these games were with me through each step of the way. I mentioned briefly at the beginning of the video that I wasn't a good reader when I first picked up the game, but as I progressed further, my reading skills improved alongside my in-game Pokemon. It sounds stupid, but it really did foster my development. These games also helped me to give a better appreciation for music, which has stuck with me throughout my life. They provided such inspiration to me because I had never heard any music like it before. I can't say if I would have taken such an interest in music, especially instrumental music, had the seeds not been planted early by me playing these games. Another way they changed my life is helping me to make friendships that have lasted a lifetime. As I mentioned at several points in this video, Pokemon was the first franchise that helped bring me together with others around me, and helped me to form real friendships. I've always been a very shy person, so Pokemon gave me an icebreaker of sorts to meet new people and become friends with them. I'll always be eternally grateful for how they gave me avenues to grow as a person and form new relationships. It's funny that a game that focuses so much on friendship ended up teaching me what friendship really is. HeartGold and SoulSilver also helped to influence my tastes in video games as well. These were the first games I ever played that had an expansive and alive world. While the level-based games I was used to were great, I had yet to see a video game world that felt so lived in. It truly blew my mind to see what was possible within the confines of a video game. HeartGold and SoulSilver were also the first RPGs that I had ever played, which ended up becoming my favorite video game genre of all time. These games changed my life because they shaped my interests and showed me what was truly possible in this medium. People familiar with my channel may recall that about a year ago I made a video about my top 10 favorite games of all time. HeartGold and SoulSilver were not present in this video. I definitely wouldn't put these games in my top 10, and maybe even my top 20. Despite that, it's hard to refute what an impression these games had made on me. There's a high possibility that most of the games on that list I probably would have never even played had it not been for HeartGold and SoulSilver. I also think I probably wouldn't even be talking to you right now. It sounds ridiculous to say something like a video game changed my life, but deep down that's how I really feel. They've left an indelible mark on me. To me, these games were much more than just another Pokemon game or a source of entertainment. These games helped me along my early childhood, teaching me many things about life, friendship, growing up, and my own interests. I truly will cherish the amazing memories I made with Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver for a lifetime.